I want to thank the firefighter who saved my life, but the way he smiled touched my heart. They say your life flashes before your eyes when you're about to die. Mine didn't. Instead, I saw his smile. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It was just a firefighter doing his job, dragging me out of a crumbling apartment, smoke clawing at our lungs, sirens screaming in the background. But the moment I saw his face through the fog and flames, something cracked open in me. Something I hadn't let feel in a long, long time. My name is Noah Reyes. I'm a failed actor, a part-time bartender, and until that night, I thought I was straight. It started with a party-typical downtown LA nonsense. My roommate Jeremy had just landed some gig on a reality show and insisted we celebrate like idiots. The place was packed with influencers, wannabes, and too much tequila. I hated every second of it. I wasn't supposed to be there long. I had work in the morning, and I was already exhausted from pretending to be someone I wasn't. Maybe that's why I didn't notice the short circuit behind the cheap sound system. Maybe that's why, by the time I smelled the smoke, it was already too late. The fire spread like it had a vendetta. People screamed. Someone knocked me over trying to get out. I remember crawling toward the front door, but it collapsed before I got there. My lungs filled with smoke. My vision blurred. And then just when I gave up, I felt arms around me. Strong ones. Hot gear. Oxygen. And then. That smile. He pulled off his mask after dragging me into the street. His face was streaked with ash and sweat, but when our eyes met, Yasushi's grin was crooked, like he was surprised I was still alive, like he was proud of me for hanging on. He didn't say much. "You good?" he asked, voice raspy. I nodded. "I think." Then he was gone back into the inferno. That should have been the end of it. But it wasn't. 2 days later, I was still coughing smoke and nursing burns on my palms when I showed up at the firehouse. I don't even know why. Something pulled me there. "Can I help you?" a voice asked. I turned and there he was. In normal clothes this time. A simple gray t-shirt, cargo pants, a bottle of Gatorade in his hand. Still sweaty. Still beautiful. You pulled me out of the fire 2 nights ago," I stammered. "I just wanted to say thank you." He looked at me for a moment like he didn't recognize me. Then his mouth tugged into that same crooked grin. "Hey, you're Tequila Boy," he said, "and I wanted the sidewalk to eat me alive. That's what you remember?" I groaned. "Well, that and the fact you tried to crawl out through the linen closet." I laughed. I couldn't help it. He laughed, too. "I'm Wes," he said, offering his hand. "Wes Carter." "Noah," I replied, shaking it and lingering half a second longer than normal. I started showing up a lot after that. At first, it was innocent. A thank you coffee. Then a box of donuts for the whole crew. Then just checking in. Seeing if Wes was around. I didn't know what I was doing. I wasn't even sure what I was feeling. But there was something about him, his easy calm, his dry jokes, his way of looking at people like he saw them. And me? I'd spent so long trying to disappear. "I'm not used to being noticed," I told him one night while we sat on the back steps of the firehouse, watching the city glow. "You were literally on fire when I found you," he said. I snorted. "I'm serious," he added. "You stood out." We sat in silence for a moment. The air between us thickened. He nudged my shoulder lightly. "You okay?" "No," I whispered. Wes didn't press. He just let the silence hold us. Weeks passed. I didn't tell anyone about Wes. Not Jeremy, not my family, not even myself, if I'm being honest. I wasn't gay, I told myself. I just had a connection. A moment. A rescue-induced crush. That's all. Except it wasn't. The way my stomach flipped every time he texted. The way my chest burned hotter than the fire when he smiled. The way I started to replay our conversations at night like a lovesick teenager. I was falling. And I had no idea what to do with that. You ever been in love? I asked him one evening, our legs stretched out on the roof of the station. Once, he said. High school. She dumped me for her bass player. Damn. He shrugged. He was a better kisser than I was, probably. I froze. Looked at him. Wait, he. Wes smiled at the horizon. Yeah, he said. It wasn't dramatic. He didn't wait for a gasp or explanation. He just said it like it was fact because it was. And something inside me clicked. That night, I kissed him. Or maybe he kissed me. It was clumsy, nervous, gentle, and terrifying all at once. I'd kissed girls before. I'd been with women. But this felt like home. Afterward, we sat with our foreheads touching, not saying anything. The silence was the safest thing I'd ever known. Of course, it couldn't stay perfect. Jeremy found out. Walked in on us one morning after a sleepover that turned into Wes cooking pancakes in nothing but my hoodie. It didn't go well. What the hell is this? Jeremy asked, disgust all over his face. I froze. Wes didn't. He calmly flipped the pancake. I'm the guy who pulled your roommate out of a fire, he said. Want some breakfast? Jeremy left. Slammed the door hard enough to knock my pride loose. I was shaken. Shaken because it wasn't just Jeremy. It was everyone else. My agent. My dad. My brand. I'd spent years building this straight, masculine, perfect lie. And now, a single smile was threatening to tear it all down. You're scared, Wes said that night. I'm confused, I replied. Same thing. We didn't talk much after that. But I couldn't stop thinking about him. About what he said. About the look in his eyes when he walked away, not angry, not even sad. Just tired. Like he'd seen this before. It took almost losing him again to realize what I had. There was another fire. A bad one. Warehouse collapse. 4 firefighters injured. Wes was one of them. I waited outside the hospital for 5 hours, hands shaking, until someone told me he was awake. I didn't even knock, I just burst into the room. He looked at me, bruised and bandaged, and smiled. That same damn smile. And I knew. I wasn't confused. I wasn't lost. I was in love. I thought I lost you, I said, standing there like an idiot at the foot of his hospital bed. Wes's voice was scratchy. You showed up. Of course I showed up. He smiled smaller this time, worn out. Didn't know if you would. I sat down beside him, gripping the edge of the chair like it was keeping me anchored. His arm was in a sling. His left eye was swollen. He looked like hell. And still was the most beautiful man I'd ever seen. You scared the shit out of me, I whispered. He glanced at me. Scared myself too. Something shifted in the silence. There wasn't a joke coming. No sarcastic escape route. Just 2 men, sitting in a hospital room, with nothing between them but the truth. I love you, Wes. The words spilled out of me before I could stop them. Before I could run. I expected them to echo. To bounce off the white walls like something fragile. But they didn't. They settled. Wes stared at me. Not shocked. Not smug. Just quiet. And then, softly, like an answer he'd been holding for a while, he said, I know. I let out a breath I didn't know I'd been holding. That's it. I know. Well, he said, a glimmer of amusement returning to his bruised face, I've known since you brought donuts the third time and made sure they were vegan. Nobody does that for a straight guy. I laughed, choked, and reached for his hand. It was rough, dry, calcited when he squeezed back, it felt like a promise. Wes stayed in the hospital for 2 weeks. I came every day. Sometimes we talked. Sometimes we watched Netflix. Sometimes he slept and I just sat in the room, listening to the beeping monitors and wondering how the hell I got so lucky. We didn't talk about labels. About what this meant. I was still figuring myself out, still trying to untangle years of shame and denial. But with Wes, none of that mattered. He never pressured. Never asked for more than I could give. Just offered his presence. His warmth. His patience. And slowly, I started offering mine. When Wes got discharged, I helped carry his bag out to the curb. He refused the wheelchair like a stubborn ox, limping with pride. I opened the car door and he eased himself in, wincing. Home? I asked. He hesitated. Can I stay with you? I smiled. You sure? My apartment's small. The water pressure's shit. And I'm kind of a blanket hog. Perfect, he said. I've been cold for days. Living together wasn't the fairy tale I imagined. Wes snored like a chainsaw. I left dishes in the sink. He watched crime shows until 2 a.m. I forgot to buy toilet paper. We bickered. We laughed. We fell asleep tangled up like seaweed. And every now and then, I'd wake up in the middle of the night and just look at him. Watch the rise and fall of his chest. The way his face softened in sleep. Because somewhere in the mess of it all, I'd found peace. I'd found home. But the world doesn't let two men love each other without a fight. It started with a headline. Firefighter hero allegedly involved with male survivor. Then came the comments. The whispers. The photos someone snapped of us on a coffee date, plastered across gossip blogs. Wes's captain called him in. Told him to keep a lower profile. Told him it wasn't a good look. He came home that night quiet. Cold. Pacing the kitchen like a storm. They want me to take a leave, he said. Unpaid. What? I stood up. For what? For saving my life. For having a personal life. He shook his head. For being a distraction. I wanted to punch something. Scream. Light their damn firehouse on fire and see who they called. Instead, I walked over to him. You're not a distraction, Wes. You're a goddamn hero. They don't care. Well, I do. His eyes locked on mine. And for the first time since the hospital, he looked scared. I told him we'd figure it out. That he could stay home, rest, heal. That I'd pick up more shifts at the bar. That we didn't need their approval. But Wes wasn't wired like that. He'd spent his life running into burning buildings. She didn't know how to sit still while people called him a liability. So he started pulling away. Little things at first. Sleeping on the couch. Skipping meals. Refusing to go out in public with me. It's just until it dies down, he said. But I knew better. It wasn't about the noise. It was about the shame. And I knew that feeling all too well. One night, I found him in the garage, cleaning out gear he hadn't worn in weeks. What are you doing? I asked. He didn't look up. I'm thinking of quitting. I swallowed. You love that job. They don't love me back. I stepped forward. And what about me? Are you quitting me too? That made him pause. Just for a second. I don't know how to do this, he admitted. I don't know how to be this guy out and soft and visible. I've been hiding my whole damn life. I took his hand. Then let's hide together, I whispered. Until we don't have to. The turning point came from the most unlikely place. My mom. She called out of the blue one afternoon. Said she'd read the blogs. Said she wanted to talk. I nearly hung up. But something in her voice made me stay. I'm sorry, she said. For everything I didn't understand. For the way we raised you to be afraid of yourself. I sat on the floor of the kitchen, tears coming before I could stop them. I just want you to be happy, Noah, she said. And if he makes you smile the way I've seen in those pictures, then I think you're finally doing something right. Wes came home to find me still crying. I told him what she said. He pulled me into his arms and held me like the world was ending, and maybe, in a way, the old world was. After that, we stopped hiding. We posted a photo together. Just one. No kissing. No fireworks. Just us, on the roof, coffee mugs in hand, smiling like idiots. The internet exploded. Half of it was support. The other half, well, you can guess. But we didn't care. Because we had each other. And slowly, the firehouse came around too. One of Wes's old partners reached out. Said he missed having him on the team. Said they were talking about changing policy. About diversity training. About inclusion. It was small. But it was something. A spark. 6 months later, Wes was back on duty. He wasn't just welcome, it was celebrated. An article ran in the local paper. The title? The Firefighter Who Saved a Life and Changed Another. They asked for a quote. Wes said, "Love is the bravest thing I've ever run toward." I stood in the crowd at the dedication ceremony, heart full, eyes blurry. They named a new training room after him, the Carter Room. A place where recruits would learn how to save lives. And maybe, how to live theirs more fully too. When he came down from the podium, I grabbed his hand. "You're incredible," I said. He leaned in. "So are you. Still think I'm Tequila Boy?" I smirked. He grinned. "Always." We went home that night exhausted and proud. Wes made grilled cheese. I made us drinks. And we sat on the couch, legs touching, hearts steady. I thought about all the things I wanted to say. About fear. About hope. About the way his love had rewritten everything I thought I knew about myself. But I didn't say them. I just leaned over and kissed him. And in that moment, I knew. The fire hadn't destroyed me. It had forged me. They say love softens you. Makes you weak. But loving Wes made me stronger than I'd ever been. 6 months had passed since he returned to the firehouse. 1 year since he pulled me from the flames. And in that time, the life I thought I'd known unraveled and reformed into something raw, complicated, and real. We were still imperfect, loud, messy, but we were solid. He made the bed every morning. I forgot to. He liked his eggs scrambled. I hated eggs. But somehow, it worked. Somehow, we worked. And yet, something lingered beneath it all. A quiet tension. The city was heating up again, literally and politically. A wave of anti-LGBT rhetoric was boiling in the media. Protests flared. Hate crimes ticked up. Everyone seemed angry at something. And Wes felt it harder than most. "They want us to shut up," he told me one night, watching the news. "Smile pretty, blend in, disappear. They'll have to fight harder," I said. But he looked tired. Not from the work. Not from the public. From carrying it all, our love, our visibility, our survival on his shoulders like armor. I started to wonder, had I dragged him into this? Was my survival his burden now? That question haunted me as I picked up extra shifts bartending. Every night, I'd watch guys flirt with each other in dark corners. Laugh too loudly. Spill drinks. Pretend they didn't care. I envied their ease. Their boldness. And then I'd go home to Wes, who slept like a soldier, tense, half alert, always ready for disaster. One night, I crawled into bed beside him, unable to sleep. I whispered in the dark, "Do you ever wish you hadn't saved me?" He turned toward me, fast, awake. "What? Do you regret it?" I asked. "All this noise? The press? The hate? The way your life's been flipped upside down?" Wes sat up, looking down at me like I was a stranger. "Noah," he said slowly, "saving you was the best thing I've ever done." My chest cracked open. "But," he continued, voice softer, "sometimes I wish you believed that." That's when I broke. I cried, right there, in the bed we'd built together. Because he was right. I still felt unworthy. Like some fire-scorched burden dropped at his feet. And he never once made me feel that way. I did it to myself. Therapy helped. I know, like, right? But sitting across from someone who didn't flinch when I said, "I think I'm still ashamed of being loved," was like learning how to breathe again. Wes came to a few sessions too. We unpacked his fear of being seen. My habit of self-sabotage. The way we both clung to survival more than joy. It wasn't magical. We didn't walk out healed. But we walked out together. And that was enough. Then came the award. The city's Public Safety Council wanted to honor Wes with a Medal of Valor for his service during the warehouse collapse, the fire that nearly killed him. He tried to decline. Said he didn't need a medal for doing his job. But I knew why he really didn't want it. Visibility. Public speeches. Spotlights. I took his hands and said, "Let them see the man I wake up next to every day. Let them know who the hell you are." He hesitated. Then nodded. The gala was a black tie affair, obnoxiously elegant, held at a historic Art Deco theater downtown. Chandeliers. Champagne. Politicians who pretended to care. Wes looked uncomfortable in his suit, tugging at the collar like it was choking him. "You look hot," I said, grinning. "You look smug," he replied, smirking back. When they called his name, the room erupted. Applause thundered. He stood slowly, walked to the stage like it was a burning building. And then he gave a speech that stunned the entire damn room. "My name is Wes Carter," he began. "I'm a firefighter. A son. A partner. A gay man. And I'm proud of all those things." Silence. Not a tense silence, just breathless. "I didn't come here tonight for applause," he continued. "I came to remind everyone that being brave isn't about running into fires. It's about standing in front of a world that tells you to be quiet and choosing to speak anyway." He looked at me then. Just for a second. "And sometimes the thing that saves you isn't a hose or a helmet. It's a second chance. A stranger. A love you didn't see coming." I don't remember clapping. I only remember standing, crying, and knowing this man loved me out loud. The story made headlines. Gay firefighter receives Medal of Valor, love saved me too. But this time, the comments were different. Support flooded in. From teens in Texas. Veterans in Montana. Closeted teachers in Mississippi. People who had felt invisible, unwanted, unworthy, now writing things like, "If Wes can do it, maybe I can too." That's when I realized our love wasn't just ours anymore. It was a torch. And we were carrying it forward. We moved out of the city the next spring. Too many sirens. Too many ghosts. We found a small house near the ocean. One story. Yellow shutters. A porch swing. Wes installed himself, cursing the entire time. We planted tomatoes. Argued about paint colors. Adopted a one-eyed cat named Smokey. And on a quiet Sunday morning, with waves crashing in the distance and coffee in our mugs, Wes turned to me and said, "Marry me." No ring. No crowd. No spectacle. Just a simple question, carved out of years of fire and healing. And I said yes before he finished the sentence. We didn't do a church wedding. Or matching suits. Just a backyard. Friends. My mom crying. Jeremy showing up with a date and a new understanding of love. And when Wes kissed me under strings of dollar store fairy lights, I thought. Maybe the fire didn't ruin me. Maybe it revealed me. Years later, I wrote a book. A memoir, if you can believe it. The Fire Between Us, it was called. I didn't sugarcoat things. I wrote about the shame, the fear, the broken things. About how being saved was only the beginning. About how love isn't needed, it's a fight. A risk. A burn that can sear through your soul and leave you better for it. Wes never finished the book. He said he didn't need to read it. He'd lived it. And now, as I sit here watching him in the garden, sleeves rolled up, graying at the temples, humming to a plant he insists is basil, it's not, I think back to that first night. To the smoke. The fear. The hand that pulled me out. The smile that cracked something open. And I whisper, for no one but the wind to hear. Thank you, firefighter. Not just for saving my life. But for showing me how to live it. The end.